here yet. But the feeling I'm getting here lately is that it seems like people know who did it. People know that it was the United States government doing it, which has to be all the more painful for a people that seem to love America and love Americans to be attacked in such a brutal, heinous way that we just saw on March 22nd.
It's interesting you speak about the way you speak about the Russian people, because I too have spent some time in Russia recently, and they have a sort of a veneer around them, an emotional veneer that that sometimes seems impenetrable. You see what one could easily interpret as a dour people, a very stolid people, maybe even emotionalists. But the second you penetrate that veneer, you get something totally different. You get people with this deep soul and the love that they share. So I'm glad that they've opened up to you, and I'm glad that you have a chance to experience that. And I only wish that more Americans could experience it, because then we wouldn't tolerate what our government's doing against Russia today. But you're there now. One of the goals that has been put out there by people such as myself is that this terrorist attack is part of a larger plan that was geared initially on disrupting the elections that just transpired in Russia, the presidential elections, and that the goal was initially to attack the Crocus City Hall, I believe, on the night of March 9th, when the popular Russian singer Shaman was scheduled and actually gave a sold-out performance, but that the security was too heavy. They couldn't do it, so they waited for post-election and the security situation to change. But if the goal was to disrupt the election, that means the goal was to break the spirit of the Russians. The goal was to cause the Russians to question themselves and question their government. Here we are several days after this attack, and the horrific reality of this attack is starting to sink in. Do you see a broken people? Do you see the Russians broken? Do you see the Russians questioning themselves? Or do you see something else? What do you see of the Russian people today?
No, I don't see that at all. I see united people. I see a people that are probably, if that was their objective, if that was the objective of the Western intelligence agencies and the Western cabal, which I heard you say that earlier today on a Judge Nelapatino show, I would agree with you. That makes sense. I didn't think of that. But on its own, it seemed like just a desperate attack where I was like, what was their objective here? But when you lay it out like that, if they could have somehow stopped the election, still a desperate attempt, but I could see that as an objective. If it was, it's just backfired, just like so many of their attempts that we've seen over the past several years. They seem like a dying animal, and this is no different. If that was their objective, I don't see that at all. I think it's brought the people closer together, and it probably brought the Federation more support than they've ever had before.
You're like me, Americans, and we look. We can get a feel. I'm sure you were in the United States after 9/11.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you got. We just had to go and talk to people, meet people, and you could get a sense of the feeling. You could get a sense of the emotion. You could read the people. So I think we both come from this problem-solving perspective with innate ability to read the room, so to speak. When I was in Russia on May 9th, Victory Day, and I hope that you're in Russia on the coming Victory Day, and I hope you get a chance to experience it. In the United States, it's sold as propaganda, pure propaganda, that it's just that this is Vladimir Putin seeking to impose his will on a subservient Russian population, that the military parade is pure propaganda, that the Russian people don't want to see this, only the true believers, blah, blah, blah. The Russia I experienced was totally different. The room that I was reading in Russia was of a people who loved their country, who loved their veterans, who knew their history, who understood the role that their history plays in modern events. The United States couldn't have read the Russian people more wrong about May 9th. Today, we have people who claim that Vladimir Putin is an autocrat, a dictator, that he stole this election, that there was never any choice there. You were there for the election. What did you experience? Did you experience a people that were, down in the dumps about a lack of any say in their future, or did you find a people that felt that they were vested in Russia? How did you see the elections?
No. Well, first, let me mention the Victory Day. That's World War II celebration, correct? I mean, that's so insulting of the West when Russia, you could argue, saved the world from World War II, which is a claim that America likes to make all the time. But when you look at the amount of lives lost from Russia in World War II, and if you really look at the battles fought and won, then they have more of a right to celebrate Victory Day than anyone else. So that's very insulting. No, the whole thing here feels more free than America. I've spent my entire life not trusting my government in America. When I was old enough to talk and start questioning things, I began questioning my own government, and for good reason. And the reason I left was because of a lack of freedom of speech and freedom of choice in elections. And here, it's a whole different scene. It's like I'm on a different planet or in a different world. This is kind of like how people, I think, used to think that America used to be. I don't know. Like I said, in my lifetime, it's never been like this. But there's a lot of hope here. There seems to be a future here. People seem to get the sense that their government cares about them, whereas in America, it seems like the government is killing everybody, and just backing everyone into a corner in a small cage. So no, I would say, like you said, I wish more American people could experience what Russia's really like, because we would be so much better off as friends and realizing how similar we are, instead of letting our government talk us into another horrible war.
Now, Greg, you're a veteran reporter, a historian, and now you're in Russia. Is this are you there on tourism, or are you planning on relocating there? What's the future of you with Russia?
Well, I came here. I knew I had to leave America because a person I work with at InfoWars, Owen Schroyer, was thrown in jail for 2 months for questioning the election on his show. And January 6th, which I was there and had a big part in helping to organize it with InfoWars, you see what's going on there with over 1,000 people locked up. So I knew I could either stay in America and keep doing my work until they decide to show up at my door and lock me up, which could be any day because there's no more rules anymore in America. They've completely broken the social contract. Or I could leave. And once I realized Russia as an option, the light went off in my head, because I grew up in the Cold War, and back then, like I said, I never trusted my government, and so I kind of fell in love with Russia back in the 80s, watching all the movies of them being portrayed as the baddie by Hollywood. So I always kind of wanted to come here. In the Marine Corps, I was studying Russian a little bit, thinking I was going to come here. So I came out here mostly just to see for myself if it was what I thought it was. Decades of research made me think it's a very promising place. And since I've been here, I'm here to answer your question. I'm here on a tourist visa. So technically I am a tourist, but I feel very grateful that I came. I feel that I was guided by something higher to come here, and I'm very grateful that I'm here, and I have no intention of going back anytime soon. I think I can do better work here. You know, I'm not, I don't consider myself a deeply political person. Most of my reports, I focus on all kinds of things, mostly important questions on all kinds of subjects. I see most of my reports as questions rather than answers. I have more questions than answers. But one thing I do understand is love and peace, and that there's no reason in the world why any American should allow another Cold War nonsensical divide with the Russian people. And the Russians I've met here have said the exact same thing. They believe that America and Russia, are like, peas and carrots. And this whole thing that's being fomented by our Western government is insane.
One of the primary focuses of my work today is to come up with a counter to the Russophobia that's infected the United States, the ignorance on the part of the American people about the reality of Russia. I think that the fear that's generated in America about Russia is derived from America's ignorance of Russia, and so that's why I've been traveling to Russia, trying to capture as many memories and bring these memories back to the United States. Do you see yourself as sort of a facilitator of data to the American people, or could you play that role? I mean, you're an American who knows America. You understand how American people think, but you're also now living in Russia and getting a unique insight into Russia. Do you see yourself playing a role going forward as sort of being the Russian whisperer to the American people, explaining the reality of Russia so that we don't fear Russia, so that we're not as ignorant about Russia?
Absolutely.